Live Hour of Empower. I am so happy to have Harvey Tuck with us again today. You're getting to know Harvey as just a regular here, which is great because that's what we're trying to do is make everybody comfortable, feel equal in our ability to share our voice and do it in the most positive way possible because I think that's one of our attractions is we keep it upbeat. Uh, the word of the day is props. You know, I decided to be Johnny Cash for a day with the Man in Black. Uh, you know what? I would love to hear what everybody thinks about props. Hopefully, we'll define it in ways that we never thought until we actually put our heads together. So, this is a definite knowledge share. If you know something, if you have something, if you've got a favorite prop, share it with us. We love to share it with everybody. And Andrea's here. Andrea's our Tuesday person who just really brings a lot of light, joy, and optimism. So thank you, Andrea. Chat's open. Andrea's kind of proved that. We've got a chief here who's starting to come a little more often. So glad to have you. He always brings positivity and good wishes. And I think that's a great way to start any show is with people wishing everybody well before it even starts. With that said, I want to turn it over to Harvey, and we'll get back to all the comments when we get a group we can address. So Harvey?
Yeah, hi everybody, and hi Don. It's fantastic to be back and to be part of the community again. I mean props. Well, what a week for me. You know, I'm a man who likes a prop, so it's a really interesting thing to think more about it. And before today, I was thinking to myself, why do I bring a prop? And apart from it being a bit of fun, the reason that I bring a prop is because a prop helps tell a story. It brings a story to life. It can be central to a story, and it's evocative. You know, when you picture the prop, you know, I could go back to my terrible juggling, but it's memorable, perhaps not for the right reasons, but, you know, it can make you think of the word dedication. And then if you remember a story, then you're going to think of that story, think of that word in a positive light. You know, when you think of a book, you know, if you think of a book and you think, how do you bring that book alive? You know, it's often done with your imagination, you know, and in your imagination, suddenly you're not reading words anymore. You're in the story, you know, you're wearing the clothes, you're the character that you want to be. You know, you can see where it's set, you can hear them talking. Now that's all done up here underneath your hat. But, you know, it helps to bring a prop. And with that said, this is very early on for a prop, but it is props week. So. And because it's props week, there's not just one prop here, of course. So I want to show you something. This is my first one. Now this is a book, as you can see. It's Dr. No. It's a first edition. It's in mint condition, and it's never been read. Okay. Now, that is sort of the first stage. It's not been read. There's words on a page. So it tells a story, but it doesn't tell much of a story here, apart from looking lovely on my shelf behind me. Now, this is the same book, but this one has been read many times, including by me, and it's dog-eared. So with this story, it's come to life a little bit more. Okay? Because suddenly it's in your imagination. Mm-hmm. Then what we got here is some DVDs. Now, you've got to be my age to really get these, but you can stream this as well. But they made them into films. That brings it alive even more. You've now got music, you've got actors, characters, you've got lots of props, you've got you know, all sorts of different things that help bring that story alive to life. And this is the final prop for this section. Now this is an Aston Martin DB5, the only one I can afford. But this is Lego. And I built this with my son. And we spent about an hour together, and we both built Lego cars. Mine was the Bond one, and we were watching a Bond film. So suddenly, going from a book on a shelf with some words, the whole story came alive. So props, love them.
Yeah, there's no end to it. Let me just mention all these wonderful people and show them on the screen. This is what makes this show worth doing every day. Andrea's here. Thank you so much. Ashif, really quickly. Victoria, thank you for coming today. Dean, just an old favorite who always brings goodness wherever he goes. Andrea, thank you. I have a heart tattoo on my wrist to thank my body for being such a good self-healer. My prop. Well, that's the key to props. If they work, they work. Use them. The other thing I want to say about props, thank you, Victoria. Both your hats are good props. Lillian, excited for props. Kelly, can't say enough about Kelly. Looking dapper this morning, y'all. I mean, Kelly's such a cheerleader for so many people, for so many reasons, in so many ways. It's just amazing. So thank you so much, Kelly. Victoria, my life is full of props, and it turned into a book. See where things can go when you get them started. Truth, grace, wisdom, author, teacher, speaker, morning. Great. Roxanne's here. Roxanne's a hat person. Thanks for being here. Okay. Johanna's here. Johanna was here yesterday. She was just tremendous. I can't thank Johanna enough for the way she shared her story and really how, painting came to life in different ways. So Cindy's here. Hello, Kelly, Ashif, Johanna. Good morning. Okay. Boy, we're getting a lot early. Dig the Lego, Aston Martin. Martin, so special, built with your son. Cindy says, I love that hat this morning. Well, change of pace, and that's what props are about. But what my viewpoint now of props after Harvey's done such an incredible job of visualizing them and demonstrating it for us, is they're a complement to what you already are, right? It's an extension. And it's also a way of getting your message across in addition to your verbal delivery. Your appearance speaks volumes for who you are, what you're trying to share. And people should assemble more props because it brings their mind to the prop itself. It brings the question of why. Anybody can lift something up. The question is, what does it mean to that person? And why did they choose that over something else? The thing is again, there's typically a separation between what you want to do and what you end up doing. Because of fear, embarrassment, whatever it is, people don't want to show their whole self, and instead of giving someone the whole picture, they give them what the picture they think people are looking for. So Harvey, what do you think about all these comments, our discussion? Your Lego thing turned out to be a hit that continued.
Absolutely. No, I mean, people are making some really good points, actually, and I'd like to recognize a few people. So, I mean, Andrew has said here, I cannot do a presentation without adding music, a song, telling a story. I think that's a great thing to say, and, I've done in business many presentations before, and, to keep an audience engaged and interested in what you're being said, you involve them, but also just add sparkle to the story. And music is so evocative. It's one of the reasons on a Sunday post that I always use song lyrics, because they're evocative and people recognize them. But, I love that. I also, Kelly said a prop helps us paint a picture with emotion. And I love that. I like what you said as well, Don, about the fact that it's adding to something we already have. It's adding to a story we already have, or adding to an idea we've already got. You know, but people sometimes use, and now who said about visualization? Somebody did. Let me see. I need to find who said about visualization. A sheaf said visualization and connection. I think that's a really good point, because when you're trying to remember something, when you're trying, let's say you have a list of things you've got to remember, you know, I was always taught to build a story around that list. You know, you've got a house and you take a journey and you see these different objects along the way. And, you know, that's because you're bringing that story alive. It's the same objects within that. But I'm just looking forward to seeing what everyone has to say about props, what their props are, how, you know, what they mean to them, or how they add value to a story they're trying to tell with a prop. You know, and there are different meanings of props as well. I was just having a look there, Harvey. How much is the Dr. No first edition? Well, priceless. Well,
it's good to have something priceless. And you know what's so cool about priceless is it doesn't have to have a price, right? A picture could be priceless if it can't be, you know, ever done again. You know, your props, the more I think and the deeper I think about it, reinforces who you want to be in that moment, that you're with yourself first. Sometimes just wearing something nice and no one will ever see it still makes you feel pretty good to have it and to wear it. You know, sometimes you admire your own look. The other thing is what reinforces the look you want to promote. You know, in essence, I mean, everybody's an entertainer, and what costume do they choose to help their audience see them for more of what they are? You know, why make people guess? Why make people think when you can just show? You know, most people just hold something up and says, this is, you know, Vince Lombardi, who is one of the greatest coaches in NFL history, and they named the championship after him somewhere. The first training camp he would have, the first thing he would do is hold up a football and say, "This is a football," and that's how simple he started, right? And that was the prop he used, and his whole message was, just learn to block and tackle. Everything else will take care of itself. So with props, it's a way of showing somebody something, and it really reflects that saying a picture is worth 1,000 words, right? And sometimes you show somebody something and instantly they get it. And I think, you know, talking about Legos, the extension is logos. Why do people have a logo? It's a symbol. It's a prop to make you like the Nike swoosh. So let's cover some more of these. Here we go. I believe it's Roxanne. I used to keep a goofy plush frog next to my computer to remind me to laugh. I've got to find that guy again. You know, there's been a survey, and a lot of frequent travelers bring, I'd say 20 to 30% of them bring stuffed animals wherever they go, right? To put in their hotel room or to be with just as company. And I think, to your point, Roxanne, having something that makes you laugh is priceless also. What do you think, Harvey?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, laughing is really important to me. And I think reminding yourself to laugh at something with something visual that you see every day is, I mean, that's a great take home for me, you know, and I have lots of things around me that remind me to laugh. I mean, you can probably see, and this isn't a prop, but it's in the background. There's a picture somewhere up there, a black and white one. And it was a picture that my son did for a photography project. But it always makes me laugh it's a picture of me, but with just a big head. I look like Eggman off Mario or Humpty Dumpty or something. But it always makes me laugh, and it reminds me of my son. So I think absolutely. A couple of really interesting points, Don, when you were talking about the football. I think props can be used as well to simplify things that are perhaps otherwise complicated. Because it brings it all together with something that is easy to visualize. I think back to a podcast I used to listen to. I quite like playing golf. I'm terrible at it, but I used to listen to this golf podcast, and they used to talk about hammering nails in terms of hitting the ball, and it always used to make me laugh, because that's when you don't think about how you swing the hammer, and you just think about hammering a nail in. And I think that was a good example of using a prop or using an idea of a prop to make something a bit simpler. Someone made a good point about trophies as well. That's a really interesting prop, isn't it? A prop. Oh, there we go, Dean. Yeah. That trophy is so famous, and it's not its value, it's what it means. The green jacket in the Ryder Cup or whatever it might be. They're all props, but they symbolize different things, and they simplify what something complicated or hard is, in something that's easier to picture. And I think that's I think that's really important. I'm looking through comments at the same time here. I was just reading Andrea. Lego, I got so frustrated with my son that I glued his Harry Potter train together because he always took it apart again. Lego is an interesting thing. We have a box of Lego here. It's a trunk of Lego. And with the kids, we always used to do something called Scrap Heap Challenge. And it was a TV program where they used to build things from a scrap heap, cars, I think. But we used to do the same thing with a big pile of Lego, but it's all made up of things that they've taken apart. So it could always be rebuilt again. I mean, Lego, I love it as a prop, actually, because, it's a good prop of something that can come apart, but you can put it back together. And you can sometimes put it back together in a more inventive and interesting way, and have a lot of fun while you do it. That was a great point.
Well, I think, Harvey, to that point, you can have props that you acquire, and you could have props that you create, right? Mm-hmm. And the props you create are more personal and probably relevant than any others. So I think at a certain point, props give meaning to yourself, motivate you to deliver a more truer message, a more kinder message. But here's what we all want to be, is we want to be more attractive to people like us who want to do better together. That's why I changed the ticker this morning. The other one was share your voice, be recognized. Now it's join the conversation. Let's start building better together, right? So by sharing knowledge, by sharing experience that has been valuable to you, or you think could be valuable to somebody else, your experience is then directed towards the them instead of towards the me. And when people can start circulating everything they already have in relationship to the conversation, like props, and that's why I try to put the words out a couple days early, is it's just like a swimming contest, right? When you come, you got to be ready to dive in if you want to play. So anyways, I think if we keep redefining what things mean that we just have taken for granted at the superficial level. Usually a prop, if you just ask somebody in a second, they would say something on a set, like something in a play, something in a movie, a prop man or woman, versus an inspirational tool, a communication opportunity. And here's the other thing I was thinking about props is it's not only what you think, it's what someone tells you they think about it. And the easiest way, like Harvey mentioned, is you lift something up and say, what do you see here? And you'll know how close they are to the picture before you even start talking. And if they see it clearly, you don't have to go into, like I always use that example. You go to a doctor, they give you an aspirin, you say, how's it work? And they say, swallow it, right? Once you know the answer to doing it, you can spend more time on exploring other things. So I think a prop also directs conversations, directs thought, elicits conversations. So Harvey, let's look for some more comments.
Yeah, I've just seen that Ashif has just put the word personality there. I think that's an interesting one, because I think, like you said, a prop and how you think about a word, what we're doing each week is we're taking a word and, like you say, maybe we've taken that word and what it means for granted. And it's always worth looking at how we view that word, other meanings for it, how it can be used. And, we always have our hats on, and, it's interesting that Ashif has said there about personality. It adds to a character, glasses, hat, whatever it is that maybe you wear. I mean, you were talking about art as well, and I'm a big fan of Bob Ross. I loved watching Bob Ross and still watch his shows on repeat. But he absolutely had a trademark, which was his own wonderful curly hair. And it became so much of a trademark, he couldn't get rid of it in the end. He had to stick with that same, because people identified with it and felt comfortable, and it became his personality. So I think that's a really interesting point. There's some other comments coming in here. What do we got? Olu said, I kind of feel like part of the function of props is that they help us adapt our environment some extent to suit our preferences a little bit more. Otherwise, they help us create more of a space mood to align with nature more. Yeah, I think so. I think they do. If you take a space, if you had a meeting room as an example, and all it had was a chair and a blank screen in it, but if you put something on a table that with no explanation even at the start, I've been to cinemas and meetings where those sorts of things have happened, and people are thinking, "Oh, what's that? What's that going to be about?" And it creates intrigue. So I think that's really interesting. I'm just seeing here about somebody's T-shirt and clothing. Who's Cynthia said, "My husband has ended up in so many conversations with other men when he wears his Andre the Giant T-shirt." That's really interesting, that one, because I've got various different T-shirts that say different things. I'm wearing a T-shirt today that says something on it. It says surf rider on it. And in fact, I did do some surfing when I was very young. That's an amusing image for you. Everyone can picture that. But yeah, absolutely. I've got to share a funny story, actually, because that's just reminded me about a funny story. When my wife first met my mum, they went shopping together. Now, my mum, when she buys clothes, doesn't really look at what's on the front. She looks at the colours, and that's her thing. And she picked up a T-shirt, and she said to my wife, who she had only just met at that time, she said, "What do you think of this T-shirt, dear?" On the front was written, "You've ruined my life." She didn't really read it. But they often laugh about that. And I think, Cynthia, that's a really good point. I'm a big fan of the film The Big Lebowski as well. And I have many T-shirts with various sayings from that film. And it often creates conversation. This is a really, really good comment, because conversations are created by these things. You know, we're now talking about a t-shirt, but you know, that's sparking conversation, you know, and everyone has a, you know, a favorite perhaps t-shirt, you know, because it might be a memory of you know, a show they've gone to watch. I did these events called Tough Mudder. I don't know if anyone's ever heard of it, but it's an assault course, and they would give you a t-shirt for finishing. And whenever I would wear it, every now and again, someone would shout out "mudder" to me. So they had also done the course and they recognized it. So yeah, I think that lovely comment there.
Yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with how much do you want to interact with other people? How much different do you want to be to get attention, to get people to spend more time looking at or reading your t-shirt? Because that's another thing. Not only will they see it, if it's got a saying, they'll try to read it, which gives them more time looking at you. And then, you know, what do you expect? A smile, a comment, you know, but I think it kind of falls right in line with what we've talked about. If you're walking in a park and you pass somebody and you say good morning, you know, when you walk by with a t-shirt and people look at it in a way, that's another communication tool. And some people are more attracted to that way of seeing and hearing than the actual seeing and hearing. And like I say, it just reinforces who you want to be that day, and it's your choice. You know, I don't think props should offend or shock or surprise. They can, but I think they can also share your mood. You know, you can see a lot of t-shirts with just lovely sayings, and when you look at it, you say, well, that was inspirational, or that was something I was glad I looked at. You know, you don't want to just see jets flying in the air or something like that when you can see puppies or something. So let me see who else is here. Kim's here. Thanks so much, Kim. Thank you. Paul's here. Paul says, okay, my apologies for being late. I was in an event that helped me on writing my book. It looks like you both have matching hats. Kind of close. Mine's darker than usual. But again, that's part of props, is you got to mix them up. You know, even rock stars keep changing outfits all the time, right? To get people to see them differently, match with the song. And
Are you saying I'm a rock star now? Now that's good. Last week you said I was Indiana Jones. You're really keeping me coming back.
It only takes a week to elevate here. That's how fast you can move. So, you know, and that's the key with props. You can be anything you want to be at any time if you decide to be it. And now that's a visual. Now, if you decide to, you know, sing like the Rolling Stones, then that's a bigger challenge, but you can definitely get to look like them, you know, or align with them. And sometimes being part of something bigger than yourself gets you out of yourself and get you into somebody, you know, that maybe you'd like to become. You know, that saying is, you know, walk 100 miles in somebody else's shoes, or whatever miles that is. And then you'll know, you know, that was that saying I had the other day. It says, if you know if you want to know why people are buying something, you have to be able to look at what they're seeing. And until you understand the other person and give them a chance to understand you, and it really is kind of a signal, you know, just like a wave is a signal when you pass somebody. And that's one thing I think as far as props is awareness. You know, sometimes you're wearing a prop and you don't even know it's a prop, depending on who sees it and what they see, right? Just wearing the wrong color can get somebody in trouble, you know, or having something that people don't agree with. So anyways, there's value and there's importance to it. Harvey, looks like you've been a prop person for a very long time before this show. What attracted you to so many props and memorabilia and collectibles?
I think because they're evocative of memories. And there's been a lot of comments coming exactly here that that's just what they're doing. You know, Linda was saying a story there about volunteering at concerts, and the giving away, selling these shirts or giving these shirts away, there's going to be memories created when people have these shirts. And I think you're absolutely right. Ashif was saying about badges. You wear a different badge with something on it. They create conversations. I think I said on the post that I do on a Sunday, I'll often use song lyrics. And bless her and rest in peace, Tina Turner, of course. Wonderful, wonderful singer, amazing life. But I responded to a post that someone put up commemorating her life. And it was interesting because it inspired a regular, I don't know if Leslie's here today, but of course we all know Leslie. But Leslie spoke about being lucky enough to go and see Tina Turner in concert in 1963. When she was still with Ike. They were arguing on stage. But, my goodness, what a memory to have. And, it showed how strong she was because she still performed in an amazing way. But it was a lyric that had caused her to respond in that way and have that memory again. So I think, that's a good one. I am on a journey, and it invokes curiosity. Now that's very good. Curiosity is an excellent word associated with this. When you see something that you're interested in, you're going to be curious. You're going to ask a question, start a conversation. And Don, actually, I think you were really right when you said that you might not realize something's a prop. It's just something you have. It's your T-shirt, it's your hat, it's a book, but it becomes something of interest from somebody else's perspective. We often say on this show, what's wonderful about it is, sorry, I just saw Kelly's comment, am I going to juggle? It just made me laugh. She said, many of us missed it and you may earn some redemption from those of us who saw it. Well, sometimes it doesn't always go the right way. But what I was saying there is I think that it's about perspectives as well, which is what's so interesting about this show, getting everybody's perspectives. But it's also what's really interesting about a prop, because it means different things to different people. And therefore you get another takeaway, another piece of value, another story from sharing that, or even just walking past somebody. It's gosh, there's lots of comments coming in now as well. So Paul said he's never looked at props as memories. So I mean, that's great. That's great to see, because I get so much value. Yeah, that's true. We don't know how valuable a moment is until it becomes a memory. And I think that's very true to a degree. But I think, this show and many others appreciates us, gets us to appreciate the moment a lot more than we would do. But yeah, you're right. You look at a photo, you look back fondly to a moment. To me, there's various aromas that are brilliant in terms of being evocative. Hard to have as a as a prop here. But there's sometimes, a smell you smell that takes you back maybe 30, 40 years to the last time, and it's instant, straight away in your mind. I was just having a look at what Lillian said. Oh, that's a nice thing to say. Harvey, songs on Sundays are always at the right time. It's just what you need at that time. Well, that's a lovely thing to say, Lillian, and they give me pleasure, because when I choose one of those songs for a post on a Sunday, what does that involve? That involves me listening to lots of music. And actually, I'll say this as well, and I haven't really thought about this, but it makes me listen to music in a different way, because I'm listening to the music partly for the lyrics, to choose something that's good for that post. I get a different perspective listening to perhaps songs that I've heard many, many times before. So, I get that different perspective even with music as well.
Well, to touch on that comment that moments can be memories is you can create so many memories through your props. Whenever you take somebody, let's say in the garage, and show them your custom car that you built, right? And all of a sudden that prop is going to make a memory for that person who is wowed by the experience. To Leslie's point, she saw a concert that in her mind represented something she carried with her. So in essence, props can create memories for other people. And, just like people, and, Memorial Day is coming up this weekend here. How many veterans have medals, right, that they can share that demonstrates their courage or their sacrifice, and how many people acknowledge people's props? That's another thing. Props are only as good as how they impact the people who see them. And what are you trying to encourage by how you show up? What you wear, what you bring with you. And sometimes an intangible is a prop. When you decide, I'm going to just be really funny today, right? In essence, you're just adding another layer to what people will see because of the tone you choose. Let's go through some of these. My most special T-shirts are ones given with sayings from children, grandchildren, to cherish and wear with pride. It's not the thing; it's what the thing makes you feel, makes you think, makes you remember, and that alone will encourage you to redirect your thoughts, maybe redirect your actions. How many times did you ever take out a box of pictures without thinking you could spend an hour here once you get going, right? And wonder, why didn't you do this more often? Reconnect with your old memories, your old people, and bring them back to life. Rita says, good morning. Have a wonderful weekend. You too, Rita. Rita's just a lovely person. Wednesdays is Rita Day. Paul says, that's powerful, Harvey. I never looked at props as memory. We don't know how. We talked about that a little bit. Lillian talked about that. Great comments today. Here's what Paul says. Oh, no, I'm sorry, Kim. The props are valuable. Help me remember people, conversations, and spark interest. Well, this is all helping ourselves when we do it. Too many people look at props as, what am I doing to impress somebody else? But again, it's you who should come first. Paul says, live video has become so fascinating because they will outlive us. It's comforting to think when my time here is up, people can look at the videos and content I made to help them. You're so right, Paul. This is a legacy. We're creating props not only for ourselves and our audience, but for future audiences. And if people can model this, and I think to Harvey's earlier point about the gentleman who was on TV, Bob, the painter, right? His work will continue because it's evergreen, right? What you put on canvas is not going to be changed by technology. It's an art. That's why he's an artist. And I think what we say we paint with, and yesterday's word was painting, and if you connect painting to art, and I know Harvey's a painter, and then you communicate with it, and now you wear art, which is a prop, right? So someone designed that hat Harvey's wearing. Someone manufactured it. Someone put it up on a store shelf and someone bought it. And that alone is a story. So I think, why not dress up? Why not dress out? Why not show up bigger, better for the people who see you to become bigger and better with you? So I think that's the benefit of it. Andrea says, I can resonate with Harvey on the lyrics of a song. Yeah, and by the way, Andrea, thanks for asking that question about Graham, because in one sense, I know it can be viewed as revered, and that's how I think Paul uses it, or it could be looked at dated, which I hope that's not a representation. But, it's good for everybody to question things, whatever you're thinking, let it out. People get to know you better. You'll get to know who you're with better, and everybody will learn together. If everybody's fluid, if no one's stuck, and people are willing to allow more information, and I think the definition of these words allow people to look at all of their words that they use and all of the words they judge, and maybe understand there could be a different context, there could be a different foundation. People can have different experiences that make certain words more of a trigger situation. Cindy says, my daughter took my husband to a Barry Manilow concert for a Christmas gift. He adores Barry. He has everything from the concert, even the confetti that was released when he sang Copacabana. It was a sweet experience because they used to sing a song. Well, Cindy, that is just so beautiful, because if you feel it and you can dive into something that allows you to get as much as you can when you're into it and take it with you and celebrate it later on, when we're talking about priceless, what was the ticket cost to that was in no way measured against the enjoyment. And what are we here for? But to have fun, but to celebrate. I mean, there's so few victories sometimes. Why not give it that attention? And from that, your husband could walk around with that confetti and tell a story all day long, and people will be glad to hear it. Have him come on the show. He could tell the story of the Copacabana. I mean, that's so beautiful. You say it, we can do it, and tomorrow it could happen. I love the song, listening to Barry Manilow.
I've got Copacabana now in my head. I won't sing it, but
I'll tell you a funny thing about Barry Manilow. I didn't meet him, but anyways, when my daughter was born, I was our first child. I didn't want to leave the hospital, but my wife needed to go to sleep eventually. So I left like 2 or 3 in the morning. And I remember the song Miracle came on, and that was one of his songs. And I was by myself, and I put the sunroof up, opened the windows, and put it full blast. And just because of where I was in that moment. And those are things like that Cindy just brought up, made you hear the lyrics to Copacabana, made me remember the song I was listening to. That's so incredible. Never would have happened if somebody wouldn't have lit the match and got the flame going. Kelly says, growing up, we had the silly finger puppet we used to place on our massive tree. It was officially Christmas season. I held on to it for years. And this past Christmas, I gave it to my brother and my nephews. My nephews both held the prop and were taken. Let me see if I can read the rest of it. With emotion because their grandfather had touched it. And that's so beautiful about passing down things from other people. It's not just from you to them, it's from them to you to them. And when you can give something your grandfather gave you to your grandson, you've actually closed a loop in something and started another loop for someone else, and that story continues. And eventually, if you fill your whole life and your environment with positive memories, collectibles, where just looking at them makes you benefit. Okay, we covered that.
It was in. I wrote down about Kelly's point there about Christmas as well, and it reminded me. And we're all talking about different memories that we've had, and they're sparking off all these different stories. It just reminded me of the film National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. With Chevy Chase. I don't know if you've seen it, but he gets locked in the loft, and he finds an old reel-to-reel of movies from when he was a kid, and he sits there, and like you said, Don, you can sit there looking at some pictures, and you can be there for hours because it's just evoking all these memories. There's Paul saying about the Hawaiian shirts, and you always want to make a holiday last a little bit longer. But I tell you what I find really interesting about today. And what I love about the show and what I love about everybody's comments is you never know quite where it's going to go, you know. And you know, someone said about a shirt at a concert, you know, then that's moved on to song lyrics, and all these song lyrics and these songs have inspired all these stories that we wouldn't have talked about, you know. And I think it's fantastic. My dad, and I'd forgotten about this, when I was about 8 years old, I gave my dad a pen. It wasn't a particularly expensive pen. I gave it to him as a birthday present, and the pen broke. But he carried that pen about in his briefcase for 20 years after that. It was always in his briefcase. And I mean, my dad died 13 years ago. I was lucky enough, though, to, as an adult, get to know him and work in his offices for about 8 years. And I remember having a conversation with him about the pen. And I said to him, you know, why do you still carry around that old pen? And he said, because it reminds me of you. And when you gave it to me as a birthday present. So whenever I look at that pen, I think about you. And he said he thought it was a really special moment. So, you know, if we all have our props, and they are evoking such amazing memories.
Yeah. And it's just really, again, taking the time to see things for what's all around you, what's within you. What are you choosing to do, to show up as? You know, what is your prop that you take out every day with you? You know, and how do you show up? And I think that just adds an exclamation point. You know, just like people who just coordinate well, right? It doesn't matter what they're wearing, it just meshes really well. So, you know, when people usually think about style, they think, well, that's expensive, you know, but a t-shirt isn't expensive, you know, a hat isn't expensive. And I think a lot of it is how you wear it, how you present yourself. And what I love about this format that we have, it is so cathartic and therapeutic. You know, I'm thinking about things I never used to think about. And by meeting and exchanging thoughts, ideas, and experiences that we have, every year of our life contains tons of that, you know? And we tend to think of the things that are right in front of us versus the things that are behind us, and the things that could be, could help us go further. So I think this is, how do we extend? How do we expand? How do we use this group to really put energy behind things together, take action steps? Because if everybody does one thing, which would take whatever, 30 seconds times 50, you become something that makes an impact. And I think that's what we need to be focused on, because I'm always focusing, how do we make this better every day? How do we make the value more transformational, you know? And it's really collaboration, interaction. And I think by turning it so much towards the audience, it has so much future. You know, me and Harvey are just me and Harvey, right? But when you can add a whole host of contributors that are in the conversation, the only difference is you see us and we get to wear the props, but we hear everybody as much as we want people to see us. Harvey?
Absolutely. No, a couple of things. First of all, got to say hello to Gene Van Horn. Hi, Van. It's always nice to for you to join us as well. He's a very good friend of mine, is Van. But Don, you made a really interesting point about expanding this, moving this forward, and for people to get more and more value from it, you know, and I see that. And you know what? It actually brings me on to another prop. So what have I got as a prop? I've got a prop. I've got a propeller. This is off my son's remote control plane. But what you said really resonated, and you know, bringing a propeller was absolutely right there, because what does a propeller do? It propels somebody forward. and what better prop to have, because we're all moving forward, we're all getting extra value, and everything is changing and developing, and a propeller is exactly what that does. So I think that's fantastic. I was just reading some of the comments there as well. Andrea's made some interesting comments there, because she was talking about Tina Turner as well, and I've been listening to a few of the Tina Turner lyrics, and they're so evocative. Oh, that's what I was going to say as well. Both Paul and Kim said about props being icebreakers. Paul said it early on, and Kim also said it, and I think that's a really good takeaway to have, actually, because if you're not outgoing, and if you're a little bit shy, they're great ways to overcome that, and to break the ice. Oh, thank you. Perfect. So I think, if you come into into a room and you're nervous, if you have a t-shirt, if you have I always notice your ring, Don. I've never asked you about your ring, but your ring is, number one, beautiful, but also fascinating, and I'm always curious about it.
Well, let me, I'll address that. And, in relationship to that, the only jewelry I've ever worn is something I got from somebody in my family, or something that related to an experience. So when me and Ann got married, which we just celebrated 45 years of marriage, I was in oh, thank you. It gets better every day. And after we got married, we came to Denver, and back then we were staying in a nice hotel, and I went to the gift store, and turquoise was a big deal back then. Everybody was getting into Western stuff. So I ended up buying this ring at the gift store, and it meant so much to me because it reflected, getting married, being on our honeymoon. That's what it is. This ring my mother gave me, so it reminds me of her, because I believe you carry people forward if you allow yourself to. And like someone says, they look at a picture or they look at a pen you gave someone, and they don't see a pen, they see you. Someone sees a ring, I see my mother, and that gives you that extra little, if you're a little hesitant, maybe push you forward, to think, what would they want? And I think that's what you should appreciate in other people. And when I had my first retail store, and I had nothing, I started with nothing. I would always spend time with the customer looking for something I knew was important to them. And some guys would come in with a big belt buckle that was all polished, and I knew that was special. Or I'd look in the parking lot and they had this truck that was all, optimized and decked out, and I would make a big deal about that. I'd say, hey, can I take a look at it? That's really cool, And what I learned, when you have nothing, to make a sale, you need to make a friend first. When you have everything, you just let the product, the size, the people do most of the heavy lifting. So I know getting off track a little bit, and we're getting time here, but Paul says, and that's why Paul, I think the key thing is both of his grandparents' birthdays were today. Okay. And I can only tell you that if your grandparents could see who you are and what you're becoming, you would have continued their thoughts for you and with you. And I know you revere, and that's the only way I would, appreciate it. But, it's really good to go back to the good times. Too many people go back to the bad times, to the unresolved issues, to the embarrassing areas, to the things they just can't get over yet. versus the fortifying things, the happy things. Here's Roxanne that says, after the loss of my mom, my therapist recommended I put her picture on my fridge. I chose a picture of her holding my newborn son with my daughter standing next to her. I had made her a birthday cake, and with just us as I was home on maternity leave. I'll try to see. It was important in my grief process to keep her memory alive and talk about happy times. Roxanne, well, Roxanne's giving you a real experiential advice from what it was that you can do. And you can do this with anything, right? Think of somebody and get their picture, and put it up for a week. Actually what you could do, and we always love little exercises, is have a rotating 52-week picture frame, right? Or something. And every week put some picture or keep a picture for another week. And wouldn't that be an interesting experience? And, Napoleon Hill, and Leslie's an authority on it. He wrote Think and Grow Rich. And what he created is he would have an imaginary boardroom with 8 of his greatest people who had passed on. So he'd have Alexander the Great or, whoever it was. And he'd sit around and Abraham Lincoln would tell him advice and Abraham Lincoln thought, and I think you can do the same thing here. Get it. Oh, that down was beautiful. Thank you. Must have been my miracle story. Linda says, I love when a song touches my heart. I'm glad can look up and find song and even a background option for me to sing and share with others at church on Sunday. And songs are able to bring emotions, moments of life, and memories which are special to hear. And it's true. Even though Paul says, even though they're gone now, I remember many things they told me, and now I learned to listen the first time. Kim says, clothing, hats, pins, and other props can be great icebreakers. Covered that is so well. Plus, you feel, I'd say sometimes happy to know you're doing something unique or different. You're showing up a little bit different without being offensive or putting anybody off, but just the little things you might do. Thank you. So grateful I was raised by my grandparents. Many people never get that opportunity. And it's been one of the greatest cheat codes in my life. Well, I'll tell you, Paul, I was raised by grandparents too. So we have a lot in common that way. Kim Wheatley, exactly. Kelly, I used to know someone that would take special t-shirts. People had to make them into quilts. Thought that was so cool. There's no end to this. I love that pen story, Jean says. Well, you helped Jean with a story today, Harvey. Kim says, the amount of love, wisdom, and guidance given by grandparents cannot be measured and lives in us. So thankful for them. Andrea, about lyrics in memory of Tina Turner and why we are all here. Out of the ruins, out from the wreckage, can't make the same mistake this time. We are the children, the last generation. Yeah, that was from Thunderdome. We don't want another hero, I think the song was. On my latest training with Danielle, thank you, Andrea, that it's hard to believe in yourself in the beginning, so she said to believe in your impact. Tune out all the noise and focus on the difference you can make. So it's quality advice, and by so many people, with so much experience, a meaning with a meaning, and that's why if you go deeper, the richer it gets, the more valuable it is. Even Harvey's curiosity, they say, what about the ring? If you got a question and it is a good question for you, ask it, it'll give that person a chance to answer it. And now everybody learns together. Let me see. I asked him Tuesday because I admired her ring since years. Thank you so much, Andrea. She's so good. Happy Andrew. Well, thank you. And then we went together before that, so I won't even tell you how many years that is. Harvey, do you have your dad's pen now? Cindy says.
I do, yeah. Yeah.
Okay, well, that was something you kept on too. Oh, happy birthday, lovebirds. Uh, thank you, Kelly. I will have many moments hold dear for myself in music, but was blessed to be working on at a radio station before internet was given an opportunity to interview Loretta Lynn on cassette. Wow, that's pretty cool. I always love Loretta Lynn. I still think she's with us, I believe. Happy morning, everyone. Um, okay, getting here. Okay, Harvey, here's something I had to share with you. I haven't talked about Barry Manilow, and I can't remember when. I was on a call with Allison Hope Barron yesterday, and we talked about him. And I gave her a challenge to write a song to one of hers. She had it. She had it done this morning and posted it. Well, that's so cool.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, first of all, hello, Alison, because she said hello. And Alison is an amazing songwriter and a very talented writer in general, is writing quite a few songs, and hopefully I'm going to be involved in a little project with her, so that's very exciting stuff. And in fact, got a Zoom call with her in a couple of hours time, and a couple of other people, so really looking forward to that. And thank you so much for being here as well. There's been the comments are flooding in, and I always go back. I say this every time, but I always go back to look at them, and they add a huge amount of value to me. I like that idea, Don, of putting a picture up and changing it every week. It's a nice idea. It's a good take home there. Ashif as well. This was nice for him to say, but he said that whenever he sees a reflector, he thinks of the story and the positive thing that I said when I used a reflector as a prop. So it's that props are powerful. They're inspiring conversations. They're inspiring curiosity, and that's fantastic stuff. And actually, we've got to have another prop. I think it's probably time for one more prop. We got time for one more prop? I think.
Sure. Always have time for a prop.
Okay. Right. So this is a book, and it's called Shaken, right? And it's a book of all the cocktails that were used in the James Bond films, given to me by one of my sons. Now, people might not remember this book, but in that book is James Bond's favorite drink, which is a vodka martini. Shaken. Right. Hold on, and if you excuse me, but just have a little vodka martini here. So here we have vodka martini.
How do you beat that? Let me get my magnum of champagne.
Oh, blimey. It is 5 o'clock here, so it's okay. But I thought the point of that is, you take a book, it's got the words on the page, but now I've got the taste, I've got the smell, you've got the noise, and it adds flavor. And that's very nice, actually. But it adds flavor to a story. There's no better way of making the words jump off the page than to do just that. So I think, keep having conversations, and keep curious.
Well, I'm still speechless over the vodka martini, because now I am so proud of myself for using props as a word, because usually we get deep into the words, but because of the words, it almost mandated visualizations showing, right? If you say courage, maybe you can hold up a lion or something, but when you say props, everything you touch and everything you can show is a props. And it was a great celebration today with so many people who came here to get started. That's a difference. Some shows it's like takes forever for someone to say something and something to happen. And this is like once you open the doors, everybody is ready to jump into action and get as much out of this as possible. It's a marketplace. Come in knowing what you want to get from it. Do something in order to get appreciated and recognized, and wait for reciprocation. And if it's just gratitude, well, that's validation. Look for little victories, but try to give as many as you can prior to getting any. And I think that's the best prop you can use, is being the generous person, the giving person. So we could stay here forever, but then nobody would want to come back tomorrow. Harvey, last thoughts?
Well, I do want to do this, and I want to say happy anniversary to you. And I think we should all raise a glass to Dom and to Anne. Happy anniversary.
Anne was available. Hey, Anne, are you here? I think she left. But anyways, I'll have her on not as a prop, but as the lead star in the play, because
absolutely,
I want to share. Without her, I would never be able to do what I do every day. Without her support, I mean, she listens to most of these too, so she's hearing a lot, and that's what makes family. And just like we want to extend the show, we always want to extend happy, healthy family members. And this is a way of picking cousins and nieces and uncles and parents and grandparents, if that's the case, and filling your plate and allowing them to be positive influences and be a shining light for you that Kelly is always promoting. So with that said, thank you so much. Can't wait to have our show tomorrow. Let me share real quickly. We've got a great show. We always do, but this is with Brian, Kofi, and me. And then Sunday is Sarah, Monday's Leslie, Tuesday's Andrea, Wednesday's Rita. So it never ends. And we're always looking for more and more new people to come on, share their stories. We've had some great people this week. With that said, I see Matt Allen's here. Matt's a very important influencer, somebody I'd want to get to reach out. And one last thing, reach out to all these people who have commented. They're all vetted, they're quality. They'll give you more than you'll ever appreciate if you get to know them in that way. So with that said, talk to you later. Bye for now. Can't thank you enough, Harvey. Love the martini.